This is Ravens Flock Talk Podcast, coming to you every week with their thoughts and opinions on each and every Ravens game. Tune in weekly and join the flock.
This is Ravens Flock Talk Podcast. I am your host, Brandon, and my dad joins me along as my co-host. And before we get into the Pittsburgh game, I want to quickly address the camera this time for all the followers on both of our platforms. We just surpassed 100 subscribers on YouTube as well as 100 followers on Instagram. And if you've been following on throughout the years, this is, I believe, probably our second year doing this, but our third season having this podcast. And, we always said this was for fun, and we weren't really taking it too seriously. This was just a fun father and son thing to do for a team that we're both passionate about, that we loved long before we started this podcast. And we would talk to each other how we are during this podcast, just without a mic in front of our face. And, it's a minor achievement, but it's a big deal for us, especially for me, because I had to influence you and beg you to do this for me just as a fun experiment. And it's cool, the comments we've gotten over the years, the followers, the views, and even on our social media page, I hadn't started posting. I thought I was going to do away with it this year because it was so much extra work with the recording, the filming, the uploading, and more editing for social media, making it shorter, making it appealing. And I would say around like week 10, I figured out what kind of attracts people, and some videos got up to as high as 16,000 views, right? And that really opened my eyes, and we got more engagement on social media than YouTube, and we've been running with it, and that's been blowing up faster than our YouTube channel, right? And so it made me think, man, had I done this in the beginning of the season, right, we might be up to like 300 followers or 300 subscribers on YouTube. I don't know. Yeah. I started it, about 75% of the way into the season and figured out the content style that works. But I really want to thank everybody who's viewing, even the haters, even the opponent fans, the people that said we were wrong.
Still a lot
of fun. All engagement is engagement, and it's just this is a sport at the end of the day. And I just really want to thank everybody who tunes in every week, that finds us, that likes it, that shares it. It all means a lot because a lot of work goes into this, even though we're small. But we are very appreciative of it throughout the years, And I wanted to say that before we get into the game. Dad, I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, I second that.
Anything.
I second that. It's been a lot of fun. You had to twist my arm to do it in the beginning.
Yeah.
But this is a great opportunity to be with my son. As he said, we do this every week anyway, without the podcast sitting there critiquing the games, having fun.
Yeah.
So I want to thank the fans as well, and as well as the subscribers and everybody that listens. And Brandon, you do a heck of a job. It's a lot of work involved. He's the main man. He does everything. I just have to sit here and talk. And
no, but I would say too is like, now we are so, like, I was just saying this off air, we're so streamlined now because we learn throughout. I mean, we used to do every little play, and it was just such a long-winded thing to listen to.
Every little detail, yeah.
Right, and now we're just off the top of the head. We flow off of each other.
And it's a lot more fun for us as well. Yeah. I hope it's fun for the people listening.
It's an easier listen.
It's an easier listening. We're just free-flowing and having fun talking about the game and everything. So
yeah.
I second that. It was a heck of a regular season. And let's get into it.
What a season to surpass this milestone too. So hopefully, we can continue on with this streak. But let's get into this game. A rival game, but it was honestly a weird one due to the fact that everything was solidified. I even said to you that game might not even matter for us.
Yeah.
I said that in the beginning of the season, Lamar might not even play, and lo and behold, that's what happened. Pittsburgh, this was kind of like their Super Bowl. They were celebrating in the locker room, and they got the breaks. And I'm actually happy we waited a few days because this game was played on Saturday.
Right.
At the time of this recording, this is a Monday. So we went through all the Sunday games. We know the matchups now. So I'm actually glad we waited a bit. And lo and behold, Pittsburgh squeaked in there. They can never count them out. No matter who's the quarterback,
Yeah.
they just find a way to do it. They get the breaks, they get the balls bounced their way, and they beat us this game. I'm not surprised in a way.
I was wondering how it was going to go, Brandon, with the rain, and the weather conditions. Of course, both teams playing it.
Yeah.
But what was the game plan going to be for us, even with all our backups as well? I was a little surprised to see the game plan as it evolved, but we can get into that as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the stats, like, for instance, just the score alone was your typical Ravens-Steelers score, right? We put up 56 the week before, we put up 10. Again, it's the backups, but this is your typical in-division game, low-scoring, ugly. It's going to come down to a big play, right?
Yeah.
And that big play happened to be on Steelers' side, but you look at the stats, Najee Harris, 26 carries, over 100 yards and a touchdown. Gus Edwards only had 10.
Yeah.
Right? So it was interesting with the weather, like you mentioned. Why are we not ground and pound?
Running the ball. I was so surprised in the beginning, all the passing that Huntley was doing and the play calling for him, because I thought we were going to ground and pound this game. The weather just stunk.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the type of game you just go down their throats. It's a typical Steelers-Ravens game anyway, without the weather. So I'm surprised.
I mean, the way Najee was running, I knew we were going to be in trouble because, he was just punching us in the mouth.
Yeah.
He was punching us in
And that's
the
what I
mouth.
thought we would be doing with our running backs.
Yeah.
And we still had our Gus out there, Justice Hill out there.
Yeah.
It
Justice Hill didn't get any carries.
None. Zero.
Not one.
Yeah.
It was Gus, Tyler, and Melvin Gordon.
Yeah, and I was anxious to see what Gordon could do. And true to his nature,
Yeah, as Ravens fans have been saying.
he fumbles the ball in a critical situation. We had some momentum going, and he fumbles it, and it just, went.
In terms of Melvin, it stinks because he's got decent size for running back. I would prefer his size over Justice Hill any day.
Yeah.
And I remember early in the season, the play I remember was his carry against Cleveland. It was in Cleveland. It was probably week 5 or 6. And he had a pretty good 20-plus yard run for a touchdown.
Right.
He had a touchdown last week against Miami, where he kind of bruised some guys to get his way into the end zone. So I'm thinking, okay, there's something here with him. After that fumble, though, in terms of Ravens, if you fumble, you're done.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
look at Drake. He fumbled in that
Yeah,
Colts game.
and that was
He's
it.
off the team.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Melvin's not going to get any carries in the playoffs,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
obviously so because of Dalvin Cook signing. We're gonna test him out, and I listen to a lot of New York radio, and they're saying he's shot. They're saying he looks slow. I hope they're wrong, because it's
Yeah.
tough to go by what Jets say, Jets fans and
Right.
Jets media. They don't know what winning football even is.
Hey, and
But
sometimes
hopefully
these-
this motivates them.
Yeah, sometimes these players have a resurgent with another team like us,
Exactly.
and that gives them a second chance. And I understand that Dalvin really wanted to be with the Ravens. On the podcast, not podcast, on the website for the
Yeah,
Ravens.
the Ravens
Yeah,
site.
they were saying that he really wanted to be here in this city. So hey, let's give him a second chance.
Yeah, let's see because if Justice is not he's not the most reliable. He's had some breakout like last week. He had the kick return, he had the touchdown catch, the first touchdown catch that we had in that Miami Dolphins game. But he also has a tendency to disappear.
Yeah.
And so you want that rotational piece, whether it's Gus or Hill, that's not coming up to that's not playing up standard to see what they can do. But the X factor is also you have Lamar's legs as well, which
Yeah.
is also a
Yeah.
good safety net. But speaking on the quarterback running, where was that with Tyler Huntley?
I know.
He doesn't have the arm, right? You would you would assume we would utilize his legs more.
He
and
made
would
some.
just go.
He made some good passes in this game. I
He
gotta
did.
admit that. But I would rather see him running in this kind of weather conditions.
Yeah.
I keep going back to the weather conditions and the game plan. His strength would have been running just like Lamar, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's his bio. But I'm not a Huntley fan, as you know, Brandon. So
Neither am I.
this was his time to shine, to prove himself. Probably going into free agency. And he didn't do himself any favors on this game because he just didn't look that great.
I think I saw before the game his record as a starter was 3-6, and we saw a good handful of games of him last year because Lamar was hurt.
Yeah.
It wasn't like this guy had 1 or 2 games as a
Exactly.
backup
Exactly.
and the starter comes back. This is half of the season and a playoff game.
Yep.
So he's got a handful of games that other teams have seen of him, and people people were high on Tyler Huntley early on, and me and you stayed the same. We were like, we just don't see it.
Yeah.
His throwing motion's weird. The choices he makes on the field we don't agree with, whether it's to throw, to keep it, to run. I just don't see it. I don't see it, and I'm not surprised we lost.
Yeah,
and,
I mean,
he's just, to me, to
mediocre.
us,
He's
just
just
a backup.
mediocre. Yeah,
he's just a backup.
and he's really a third backup to me, because he just doesn't have that leadership. I guess is the best thing
for
too.
Instance, I look at the Giants, for instance. A better backup I would love to have is Tyrod Taylor. Back in Baltimore.
We were just
I mean,
talking about
I think
that.
he's a much better player than Tyler Huntley. But hopefully, as I said, this season, if Huntley goes into the game that we need him, our season's done.
Yeah.
Like, Lamar's got to play every single game, bottom line.
And as the Steelers go, Brandon, they have so much luck, and I just can't get over it. The first two plays of the game, one he almost fumbles, the running back. I forgot who it was. And then
it was Warren. Jalen Warren.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, ball slippery right out the gate. We almost could get it. If we had anybody in the backfield, that's you're talking.
Or if he just mishandles it.
Or mishandles it, kicks it, whatever. Second play, fumble, and he falls on it. Rudolph, right?
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was. I mean, I wasn't sure if it was the second or not. But early that first drive, there was a few close calls.
Yeah, it was literally the second handoff, or the second play, I should say. And so, typical Steelers, they fall
and Steelers
on it.
fans that see this, they're gonna be like, "Oh, cry some more, keep complaining."
Hey, I don't care.
It's okay.
All these years,
but
the way the ball bounces in their favor. That's why you just got to kick them in the teeth.
But the bottom line is this: at the end of the game, 2 turnovers apiece.
Yeah.
Right. So, as a Ravens fan, I'm not gonna be a homer and complain and as
2
Steelers
turnovers.
fans say, cry. We couldn't execute.
2 turnovers and 1 big play on their part changed the whole complexion of the game.
Yep.
And guess who that play was against?
Yeah, it was. It was against Rocky Sin, but Marcus Williams was the help guy.
Yeah, he was in a bad position as a safety. But he was in front of him instead of behind him for the insurance policy. Yeah, and that was the difference in the game.
That changed the game. Yeah. Because the way the game was happening, it's 7-7. Mm-hmm. It's 7-7, and you knew that in a game like this, it's a typical Ravens Steelers game too. That is all going to come down to one big play. I remember back in the Ben days, throwing it deep to Antonio Brown, and it's over. In a close game like that, and the momentum comes on you, and we actually were trying to get that back the next drive. And then Gus fumbles it around like the 50-yard line. But Marcus Williams, like what Rocky said to me, I was excited about this guy. Mm-hmm. Man, he has been a bad sign. No wonder he's like deep in the depth chart for corners.
In the rotation.
He's always getting beat. Yeah. And it's not like you see him a lot, but every time you do see him, he's getting beat or a pass interference. And Marcus Williams, first of all, has 2 chances. 2. In the beginning of the first drive Pittsburgh has, a gimme pick, and it's not like this guy's Ed Reed and gets a ton of chances. Yep. Catch the ball. I don't care if it's slippery. It's right there, right? And then he has a redemption to come up and jump the route, save the game, save the game, basically the game-winning touchdown, and he's out of position, always. Yeah. How can you, and this is our veteran safety.
And we say this week after week, so I'd like to hear from the fans out here, what do you think about Marcus Williams? Because I really don't want him on the team next year,
he's just
regardless.
To
me, he's a liability.
5 years, $70 million. Yeah. Is this a $70 million player?
No. And on top of it, he doesn't want to tackle. We've seen this over and over again. This guy just is not physical back there in the secondary, and that's what we need.
I mean, listen, he was second this game in tackles, but that's because Najee Harris was just running all over us, and he has to come up. But if you look at the aggression of when we say tackling, for all the people looking, it's the aggression to initiate it. He looks like backing away, like almost like Marcus Peters used to do.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I'm just going to contain
They're almost
him.
identical.
Yeah, I'm just going to contain him until someone comes and actually makes the tackle.
The comparison I have, look at Kyle Hamilton and how he tackles somebody, how physical he is at the line. That's why they have him blitzing all the time. And then look at Marcus Williams.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, that just is not Ravens ball, and I'll say it again. You don't want to be physical in this league, period, especially on the Ravens, then forget it.
Yep.
Forget it.
Another thing I want to say on defense is you were saying all game, and I was like, Dad, it's just the way it is. You know, to stop talking about it. He's out there as Queen. You know, obviously we said way before this game, his shoulder, but at some point you got to have somebody out there, right?
Yeah.
And so,
and he had a good game, thank goodness, because he stopped Najee a lot.
But thankfully, you look at all you look at these games, right? Lions had nothing to play for. They play all their starters. Their top tight ends out. All these guys are dropping like flies. Miami is dropping like flies. Mm-hmm. So luckily we didn't get a shot of Queen on his back, and they're looking at him. So
exactly,
you know, he's got more than enough time to rest now for the playoff game.
Yeah.
My big thing is this game was just no injuries.
No major injuries.
Yeah.
Yep. It just dinged up, and I'll take that. And we got 2 weeks to recover, so more than 2 weeks. So that's good. Good news.
In terms of this game, I mean, nothing much to say. It was a really ugly kind of a
expected. It was
not a boring game, but
with the weather like that, it just changed the complexion of the whole game. I always like to say I give the Ravens fans credit that went to that stadium in that rain. On a meaningless game, almost like a preseason game. More power to you.
It was meaningless because this is a rival and you want bragging rights. And
I say
Ravens were in a lose-lose position because we blew it against them early in the season with our starters, right? And then if we beat them this game, fans will say, well, how come you couldn't beat us with the starters, right? And so we lost, and now they're talking about, oh, we swept you guys, right? So,
well, it's not over yet. We may meet them again.
I hope so.
You know,
I really hope they beat Buffalo. I want the easiest route to the Super Bowl. You know, and I mean the emotion. The ratings will go skyrocketing with this. This is like Ohio State, Michigan, Duke, North Carolina.
How good would that be in our stadium to play Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness!
I mean, you talk about fans will be hyped up.
That would be fun.
Players will be hyped up. They might have to if there was like if they were planning to have us at 4:00, they might have to reschedule that game for the prime time slot because that would be.
This game proved one thing once and for all: how valuable Lamar Jackson is. And, you know,
we're a different team without him.
I mean, we are completely different, and our weapons are completely. And I'm not even saying starters or non-starters. He just makes the difference on our team. Period. Mm-hmm. And so I'm so happy to have him.
You got to think twice when he's on the field as a coordinator, as a player.
Every play
changes everything.
His intensity too, his commitment. And it does remind me of Josh Allen because Josh Allen last night was a beast. He just didn't care about his body. He was throwing himself all over.
Personally, I don't want my quarterback playing like that.
I don't want him playing like that either. I don't want Lamar. I want them to be smarter than that.
If I had to relate him to an athlete in a different sport, he's like Russell Westbrook.
Yeah.
In a position where you got to be cool, calm, collective. You got to be he's just erratic. He makes crazy decisions. You know, and this is supposed to be.
It's almost reckless. It's almost reckless is the word I can
exactly.
Thing I can say about Josh because he just doesn't care. It seems like he just wings it around and he throws his body, could get hurt. I mean,
a bad loss by Miami too. The way he was playing,
I know
the turnovers he's had. Bad loss. Last thing I want to say too is it's disappointing. Gus fumbled it as our starter, our running back number 1. He has had a tendency in playoff games too to fumble it. And key, I think he fumbled against Tennessee, I believe. So occasionally he'll do that, and it kind of worries you a bit. But the way Lamar's locked in, as you told me, Dad, I have full belief in this team. Full belief.
Yeah, I do. You know, Brandon, and I'm going to sit back a little bit and not be so critical because I was looking at all these teams this week, and everybody's making mistake after mistake, right? Because there's no perfect game. I think Lamar's attitude, leadership, and just his sheer desire to win is what I look at.
Yeah, what you're banking on.
Whatever happens, and I just hope we on the winning side of everything.
Yeah, and one last thing. It was nice to see Nelson Aguilar, 5 catches.
Yeah.
You know, he and of course Isaiah had the huge touchdown catch, evaded a guy. Like I said, he's very elusive. As I said just last week. The one disappointment though was where was Bateman?
Bateman again.
You're supposed to be the top
starter.
guy
Yeah,
now.
you're the
with
starter.
OBJ out.
Yeah. You're the
Zay
premier
Flowers.
receiver now.
Yeah.
Right? And
No catches. I don't know if it was Huntley not looking his way, but you know, this is why we talk about him. He just disappears, you know, and
you know,
in a game like this, you're banking on him.
What's funny is receivers get criticism for wanting the ball all the time. All your premier receivers are up in the quarterback's face. This is the time I want Bateman in a game like this to say, "Hey, get me the ball. You know, I'm the starter." And you know, and thank goodness for Aguilar. He was the veteran in that game in terms of getting the ball, you know, catching the ball. So, yeah, Bateman, you better step up. You've got to step up and start being, you know, a leader at this point in your career, you know, with the Ravens. So
yeah. So let's move on to the playoffs. One thing I want to say too, after the end of the Miami-Buffalo game and the schedule comes out, the times come out, and, you know, it was one thing with the Amazon Prime this year, right? We had already had Prime.
Right.
So the games were already included for us. And even if they weren't, even if we didn't have Prime, I would have been so frustrated. Like, why are we having to pay for primetime games, right? And I don't know if people at home had this experience, but they stunk for us. It was blurry. It would skip. You had to restart it sometimes, you know, and our Wi-Fi is fine. It was not a router issue. So that was one thing that annoyed me. Then late in the season, I remember Buffalo played the Chargers. We couldn't get the game because it was on Peacock. Now the NFL wants to charge you for a playoff game, and not just a meaningless playoff game like Cowboys-Packers where Cowboys should blow them out, or Philly-Buccaneers. This is an AFC game that we care about as Ravens fans, Miami, Kansas City. And so it's on Peacock. We don't have Peacock. You know, this is going to become a trend, which I was afraid of. And the rumor is Peacock paid the NFL $110 million just for this one game. So if you don't have Peacock, and it's not like you can have a free trial either, you have to pay for it too. So it's just very frustrating because it's late. It's a Saturday night game. There's only 2 games on Saturday. It's Houston, Cleveland, and then Miami, Kansas City. And if you don't got it, you got to pay for it.
And I don't know what we're going to do even, Brandon, because I don't know if you want to pay for one game.
Do you want to pay for one game in which your team is not involved in?
Yeah.
That to me, this is why I don't like Roger Goodell. To me, this is why people boo him at the draft. When is enough? Because the NFL, the NBA is not close in terms of revenue, ratings, sales. MLB, forget about it. It's too many games. Yeah. It's not interesting. The NFL is on a different league than any of these other leagues because you get one game a week. Yeah. This is do or die. It's not like the NBA where, we lost. We have 3 more games this week.
Yeah, and everybody waits. You know, Brandon, everybody waits for this playoff
That's what I'm
game
saying.
all year long. You're waiting for this, and now
week 1 to 18.
It's a slap.
17.
It's a slap in the face with the NFL to the fans. I mean, come on. Everybody does. A lot of people don't even have cable, much less do this.
You added an extra season to the regular season, an extra week, right?
Yeah.
And then now you want to charge more? I mean, when is enough enough? And I heard one of the guys I listened to, Mike Francesco, go off about it. You know, he's an old school New York, Jersey guy. And I agree with everything that he said because it's a slap in the face to your loyal fan base. And the fact of the matter is I think the NFL, they know that we'll do anything.
Yeah, well, it's a definition of greed.
Yeah.
It's just a definition of extreme greed on the NFL's part. I mean, come on now.
Yeah, and I cross my fingers that people stand by their guns, right? And say, you know what, I'm paying for enough. I'm paying for Hulu or whatever they are, Amazon, Netflix. I'm not doing this for one game. And I hope The ratings are so bad,
right?
That they
never
do
try
away
this
with
again.
this.
That they never try this shenanigans
because
again.
if they already got Amazon Prime and they're doing Peacock, what's to say next year they're not going to add one more, two more?
Be Hulu next or whatever.
It's crazy the amount of money that they're getting, and it's never enough.
I know, and this is a prime time. It's not only playoffs; it's Saturday night. It's the prime time. Everybody's already had dinner. You're going to sit back and watch a nice game because Sunday, the next day is Sunday. Everybody's off. Most people off of work, waiting for those games, and then you do this. So I'm not.
It's Tyreek going back to his old team to play. I mean, people want to see that.
I know.
Patrick Mahomes.
I know.
I'm
surprised because of Patrick Mahomes and the publicity that he always gets in this league.
Well, that's why they're doing it.
Yeah, but
what better quarterback to do it?
But true.
He's the face of the league now that Brady's gone.
They're counting on people paying all this money for him.
The whole Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were going to do a game, the NFL's smart. This is the game to do it.
Yeah.
This is the game.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to first address that because I just think it's egregious. And I would be so pissed off if that was Baltimore.
Oh, yeah.
And who's to say? I don't even know yet because we don't even know who we're playing yet. They might do it. They might do it because Lamar he's box office.
Yeah.
They might say, hey, we're going to put Peacock on this because maybe it does well, right?
We'll see. We'll see.
So it's just disappointing. But in terms of the AFC, we're just going to stick to the AFC. Browns play the Texans 4-5 in Houston. Interesting game. I think it's interesting because C.J. Stroud doesn't play like a rookie.
Yeah.
And it's in Houston.
Yeah.
But Cleveland is definitely scary.
I know.
And if I had to put money on it, if I had to bet on it, I would say Cleveland, as bad as I hate that. But you never know. The playoffs is anything can happen.
Yeah.
Anything can happen.
A funny little stat I saw on the radio, on the TV today was C.J. Stroud was 11 years old when Flacco won the Super Bowl. 11 years old. So, it's the old man against the young kid.
Against the future.
So we're going to see. That's going to be interesting. A lot of Ravens fans are very nervous to see Cleveland win this game, but I'm not. And if we had to play Cleveland, I'm okay with playing Flacco because he's not mobile. And as long as we get pressure on him, we know him well. And when you have a non-mobile quarterback like that, I don't get too anxious about things, right?
Yeah.
As long as you take care of business and you stay in your lanes, you should be okay. That's my theory.
Yeah, and I always said, too, like, even if you don't get the sack, if you just get pressure, it can fluster a quarterback that doesn't want to use his legs, right?
Right.
Next game, Dolphins-Chiefs, a huge game because Dolphins really blew it. I mean, they go from being at the 2 spot to now number 6, and you lose a home playoff game, right? If they won against Buffalo last night, they get a home playoff game.
And it's not easy to play.
And they play
in Kansas
Buffalo
City.
again.
Yeah, and it's not easy to play in Kansas City, as everybody knows, and it's going to be 0 degrees.
Yeah.
Welcome, Miami.
And that's why I always told you, Dad, because, for those that don't know, he would always get upset when it would become like October, November, and it's 90 degrees in Miami, or you're playing in a dome. And I always said, that, to me, in my opinion, hurts teams because you're softer, right? Yeah. Dallas plays in a dome, but how is Dallas going to do when they got to play in a cold in Philadelphia, for instance?
And it does mean something because you have to get used to that. That cold, playing in the cold, and
that's why going up to New England to play Brady was so hard.
Hard, right?
So hard.
New England, Green Bay.
Baltimore, even Kansas City, Philadelphia.
Yeah,
those are tough places to play when you add on the cold.
Yeah, don't add snow in there too. That's another factor that they're not used to.
Yeah.
So the slippery conditions, the cold, your hands. And
think about this too. I also heard this too. I won't take credit. Tua, the first drive last night, he tries to throw it deep to Tyreek, and Tua, when he throws it, he kind of lofts it. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
It kind of floats in the air. Well, in the cold, you got to get through
you
got to zip it through there. And how doesn't have a strong arm. How is he going to handle that?
I'll give credit to Flacco with that. He has a strong arm, and that was when he was playing for the Ravens. That was, his forte was whether it was wind or cold. He had such a strong arm, it didn't really matter.
Brady was the best at it.
Yeah.
He was, and that's why when he went to Tampa Bay, even though it was Tampa Bay, he's used to the cold. Yeah. That's why he went up to Green Bay and beat them. That was a crazy game. Yeah. But you talk about a guy with 2 decades of experience in cold weather, even though he plays for a warm weather team, he could handle that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And the last AFC matchup, Bills-Steelers, as we said in the beginning, Steelers squeak in. I don't see how they beat them. I really don't. But Steelers are weird. You count them out and they'll surprise you.
Steelers are weird, and the Bills are sporadic.
Especially because Josh.
Yeah, with Josh, you just never know what he's going to do.
Yeah.
You know what decisions he's going to make on that field. He just doesn't. He never plays conservative. It can be good, but it can be horrible. And
with him,
they're not used to they're not used to playing each other either. So
yeah.
So that's going to be an interesting dynamic.
But
because
with Josh, it's almost like you anticipate at least 2 turnovers with him, whether it's an interception, a fumble.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I liked about Lamar this year is he cut down on the turnovers.
Yeah.
He's not throwing those wild balls that you see Josh Allen throw.
Yeah.
Think about all the red zone turnovers he had last night. Yeah. So
I tell you what, though, that they're going to miss T.J. Watt big time in that game.
Well, that's going to be interesting.
That's going to be. I mean, that's a record right there. That's a game changer.
It's not solidified if he's not going to play yet.
I heard today, very, very likely he's not going to play this week coming up, right? Because it's pretty bad. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not season ending, but and
By his
then
own
even if
guy.
he comes back, he's going to have a brace. They said because it's that bad, right? Plus, even if he does play. To me he won't be as effective, of course, as he always is. So
yeah. So as we went through all the AFC matchups, Baltimore is either going to face the winner of the Browns-Texans game or the Dolphins-Steelers.
Yeah.
The winner of the Browns-Texans or the Dolphins or Steelers, because Dolphins don't play Steelers. So I'm hoping Pittsburgh. Really, I think they're the weakest team. But for some reason, I just feel like we're going to be playing Flacco. And that's going to be so interesting, him coming back to Baltimore.
Yeah.
That's my prediction because I don't see Pittsburgh beating the Bills. I see Kansas City beating Miami. So I just feel like we're going to be playing Cleveland most likely.
I tell you this every week. Take care of business. I don't care who we play.
Yeah.
I don't care who we play. We have the team that can beat any team. And I don't care.
If not now, then when?
I know.
Right?
I don't care.
If
bring
not
bring
now,
it
then
on.
when?
Bring it on and bring it on in Baltimore.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are. So you got to come through us. You got to come through the stadium. Let's see what we can do. This is one of our better teams that we've ever had in our history. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And we have a focused quarterback now that knows a loss. You always say, Brandon, sometimes a loss is good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes history is good in the past. So now we have a more mature Lamar, a more driven Lamar. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's going to be a great weekend of football. And I'm excited, man. Playoffs is another atmosphere.
And we're fairly healthy. We're one of the healthier teams out there. So.
Yeah. I mean, this is the healthiest we've
ever been
in the past 3-4 years.
The fact that we even have Lamar is come on, 2 years in a row we haven't had him.
Yeah.
You know? And Huntley, I will never forgive him for the 1 yard debacle against Cincinnati. So forget him.
Yeah, this is it now. This is do or die. You know, in the offseason, you make these moves. You get Clowney. You get OBJ. You draft Zay Flowers. This is the time.
Yeah,
this is the time.
We're hitting our stride.
You got the weapons
Madubuike,
around him.
We're hitting our stride. We got Pro Bowlers across the team. You got the best kicker in the league still. Hey,
and, in terms of Lamar. Last thing I want to say is, he's got to get this monkey off his back.
Yeah.
People don't care about the MVP, even though he's going to get it most likely. His record in the playoffs is bad. He's only got one. I think he's 1-3, maybe 1-4. He's got to get this monkey off his back because I've read a stat since 2018, the best regular season record of any team since 2018, but one of the worst when it comes to the playoffs. So it's like, is this going to be another year of just a fluke year where, regular season team and get bounced, or are we going to actually make a push?
Listen, I understand. And people should look at some of his tweets recently, Lamar's tweets. Some of them are kind of religious based. And what he's saying is he doesn't look in the past. He's only looking in the future. And that's what you want to see from a young man who is your age, Brandon. You want to see that maturity. I have seen it. And whatever happens, happens. But, I think we are all rooting for the young man,
Yeah,
And say-
Baltimore's behind them, and we're going to be behind them
Yeah.
in the game because
Yeah.
we got home field
Yeah.
advantage. Everything comes through the bank.
Yeah.
So, I feel like, too, I think we should have just a little short episode. I think we'll tune in after we get the results of the games, and we'll know who we're playing, and we'll do like a little pre-synopsis because if we don't, I mean, that's 2 weeks of not having an episode. It's going to be a long time waiting. So
we'll
I
throw
think,
our opinion out there for better or worse.
We'll see who we match up with
Yeah.
and what should be the game plan and how we're going to effectively win the game. So,
Maybe we'll be the coaches on the net.
So again, thank you again for the 100 subscribers. I think we're up to like 125 actually, and we have like 150 on our social medias. So appreciate it again for everybody that's tuned in, and let's make this year one to remember. This is the cool thing about documenting. If we win the whole thing, we have all this documented this whole year, and it'll be a magical year. So that's what I'm hoping for. So yes, we will tune in, have a little pre-evaluation of who we match up with after we get the games done, but it's going to be a very, very exciting weekend. So please tune in next week.
And we can sit back and watch.
Yeah, you can sit back and watch.
That feels good for a change, Ravens Nation.
Yes.
Just to sit back and watch and see and let them beat up on each other before they come to Baltimore.
Exactly. So it's looking good for us, and hopefully we can go out there and get the win.